How to write sizzling starts to your stories. A sizzling start is an opening to a story that captures the reader's interest, one that makes them want to read on. No matter how good the rest of your story is, if the beginning is dull, you'll lose many readers. We're going to look at 6 ways you can get your story off to a sizzling start. Start at the action. Don't have your story begin earlier than you need. Let's imagine this is our main character, Steph, and she's going bungee jumping. Look at this list of events from her day. Keeping in mind we want to start at the action, where would be a good point to begin our story? Why don't we leave out these mundane events and start here, with her ready and waiting to jump? Perhaps our story could start, Steph was standing on a small platform 200 meters above a river, trying to muster all of her courage. Her heart thumped in her chest. Steph closed her eyes and jumped. This starts at the action. We could even have chosen to start a little later, with our character falling through the air. Steph felt the wind roar in her ears as she hurtled headfirst towards the river. The bungee cord stretched and stretched. Eventually it pulled back, bouncing her like a yo-yo. Neither of these examples waste any time getting the story started. They start at the action. Use dialogue. To capture the reader's attention, start with a character speaking. Here's an example. "Come on, kid, you're holding up the line," the ride operator grunted. If you do use dialogue to begin your story, be careful not to overdo it. A lengthy exchange of dialogue between characters can become boring and confusing for the reader. Perhaps one line of dialogue and then present the reader with some context as to what's happening. For example, Jack felt sick. His eyes followed the path of the water slide as it twisted and looped before a final drop. He could hear the people in the line behind him growing impatient. Used effectively, dialogue at the beginning of your story is a great way to spark interest. Make the reader curious. Present an interesting or unusual thought or event at the beginning of your story to pique the reader's curiosity. Here's an example. What began as the best day of my life ended up being the worst day of my life. Here's another. Half walking, half running, Rick ducked into an alleyway. He crouched, hiding in the shadows. What went so wrong? Who was Rick hiding from? These story starts make us want to read on to find out more. The key to piquing the reader's curiosity is to not give too much away, just enough to make the reader want to find out more. Ask a question. Start your story by asking the reader a question. Here's an example. Have you ever wished the ground would just open up and swallow you whole? That's exactly how I felt last Friday night at the school dance. Another example. What would you do if you found a backpack stuffed with cash? By asking a question to the reader, we are engaging them, involving them in our story. Use humor. An effective way to make sure the reader wants to read on is to begin with something humorous. Take these 2 beginnings as examples. They both aim to make the reader smile. Add onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia are words that represent sounds. For example, buzz, zip, snap, oink. Starting your story with onomatopoeia can be a good way to hook the attention of the reader. Here is an example. Snap. Liam broke another small twig from an overhanging branch and tossed it into the stream. Another example. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Kate watched as the second hand dragged itself around the clock. She wondered if the day would ever end. These aren't the only good ways to begin a story. Whichever way you choose, make sure it's interesting for the reader. The start of a story is so important that it's worth writing a few different beginnings and then choose the best. What sizzling starts have you read in books or seen in movies? Share your favourites in the comments below. EasyTeaching.net